on this day, on August 10th, 2020, the company of Steamforged Games has maliciously and deliberately killed the game of Guild Ball. Welcome back, Rage Nation. We got Pete here with the Mountain Man, John Stokes, and Chris, non-tech, not surprisingly not so angry UN.
Yeah. What the fuck?
So we're doing this episode because Steamforged today, and it's just so crazy that the announcement was called the end of Guild Ball, and there was this whole blog about it, and man, this is just really a shitstorm.
Yeah, that's a good thing to call it, I think.
Well,
very nice.
And here's the thing that's really crappy about this, right? So we'll go into a lot of the ins and outs of this and kind of our reactions because, you know, we did start as a Guild Ball podcast. We brought John, you on because you were a great Hunter player and brought a lot to the podcast. This is what we cut our teeth on. This is what the podcast was built around. So, I mean, this is it's a little personal for me just because this is what kind of we cut our teeth on. So we'll go into it, say kind of our feels and what we kind of think and suspect and whatnot. But the thing that I'm just going to lead off with that is probably just the shittiest thing that I saw was we had obviously the Gen Con announcements, which, you know, is great, whatever. But Steamforged Games purposely left out Guild Ball. And there were a lot of people that made note of that. They were like, hey, Guild Ball, you said nothing about what about Guild Ball? And Rich Loxham, one of the people that runs the damn company, people asked him about it. He like, hey, any update, Rich, with Guild Ball? Got a smiley face from Rich. And then he's like, something's coming, winky face. And it's like, usually if you're doing like that, usually that's a positive announcement. It's not like, oh yeah, your game's fucking dead. You know, it's just, it kind of seems a lot like a douchey move.
Yeah,
so
my thought was, hey, maybe something's coming from this field test. They've got some great ideas. They're trying to revamp this game. We're gonna get some more Guild Ball going. Fucking
or some minor guilds that we've been waiting for.
Oh yeah, my God.
Yeah, Kid Blackheart. I mean, we're never going to see Kid Blackheart, Chris.
I don't believe that's true.
Oh, you don't believe it, huh?
Yeah, which is part of the reason why I'm not super upset.
Okay.
So, I mean, here's the thing. I've always been of the opinion that, like, Guild Ball, you know, there would be a time where they just brought it to an end, right? Like, and Matt has kind of, you know, I think he's just straight out said that like there is an expiration date on Guild Ball. So
it hasn't been a secret.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I knew that day would come, right? And I was hoping that it would come at the end of season 5, that we would get all the stuff. But I mean, I know everyone's going to want me to be like all upset, but the truth of the matter is they're a company that Guild Ball was their first game. There are some issues with continuing to grow it that I don't think they anticipated. And it's probably just not fun for them anymore, right? Like, I mean, correcting Guild Ball is probably just a lot more work and it's not fun. So they decided, hey, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, it's probably not fun listening to people bitch about the stupid decisions they make and the lack of effort they put into it.
Well, that's my problem, right? Is that it's not about stopping a game because, you know, it's a business. I get it that you can't run everything. You can't please everybody. But one, this is the game that is the flagship of your company. This is the game that you built to get your company up and running. This is the game that people have, you know, basically built you up from. And the fact that you are just going to cut loose and honestly, the reasons that they gave are bullshit. The reasons that they gave were they're like, you want to know what? COVID's around. We were going to finish it, but COVID. And then the second reason they're like, and you want to know what? We love the game, but each time we brought out something cool, it was either OP or the community thought it was bullshit. It's like, so you're blaming the community because you don't have the balls to fix your game the way you want because you're afraid you're going to scare some players away that don't like your changes.
Hold on. I want to go through every one of those points because every one of those points makes me mad. First of all, COVID came around, so now you can't get their models. You couldn't get their fucking models a year ago. Yeah, COVID. No, we can't get models anymore. No, nothing to be sold. Yeah, you had fucking problems for 2 years now of selling shit. That wasn't the problem.
No doubt.
So regarding the COVID thing, and this isn't me defending Steamforged, but is anybody aware of like what miniature sales have done during COVID? Like, I just don't know that information, and I wish I I had it, right? Have we seen other games that have been like thriving in sales, or are all sales down because stores are closed?
Here's the thing. I would argue, if you look at Weird Games, which is Malifaux, which everybody knows I've been playing the crap out of. So I would argue that Weird Games is
You are
about the
weird.
same size. Yeah, about the same size as Steamforge Games. I would even argue that Weird, because they don't do all the special licensing that Steamforge does, Steamforge might be bigger than Weird Games. And I feel like Weird Games has been done a very solid job. They've gotten new models out to people. They've been producing. They have new content out. They have games that they have this one game. It's called The Other Side, which apparently has gotten so many bad breaks that it's kind of ridiculous. But well, see, people think it's actually cool, but they haven't been able to get it because it's really had problems getting off, the ground. But here's the interesting thing is they're still, during Gen Con, they're like, hey, we got stuff coming from this. Just stick with it. It'll be there. And, you can enjoy it. And it's one of those things where this whole COVID thing just seems like a cop-out. It just seems like, you want to know what? We want to save some money. And this would be like if Weird Games decided to kill Malifaux and say, you want to know what? We're going to do all these cool new games. Malifaux has kind of run its course. Let's just let it die.
It'd have been one thing if they'd finished the game out. Yeah, I agree. Season 5 would have been.
I agree with that.
It'd have been a great time to end it, but you got to fucking finish it. You can't just say, oh, yeah, well, here's all the names of all the minor guilds. Here, have this little tease. Here's all the names of them. Oh, yeah, but you'll never see them.
But that's not what they said, right? Like, they definitely left the door open to like revisit Guild Ball in the future. Like, I think we actually will see those minor guilds. Just like
I hope we do. I hope they sell the game to somebody else, and somebody else, a good company, makes it.
Okay, or it could be a situation like what Games Workshop has done with Blood Bowl, right? Like, Blood Bowl was dead for a long, long time, and there were enough people that still wanted to play it, still liked it, and eventually they came out with more stuff for Blood Bowl, and it just wasn't a priority for Games Workshop, right? Steamforge could do the same thing. They're developing new games.
But did Blood Bowl have all the shit that Steamforge did the past 2 years?
Well, no, here's the difference, right? Because as a matter of fact, they did say that, Chris. Jamie Perkins even said that the remaining 4 minor guilds, we're not going to be releasing miniatures or rules for those final remaining guilds. They're not going to do it. And obviously the door is open. Sure, there can be some fan-made shit, or maybe another company comes in and buys the rights or whatever. But the fact is, you're comparing it to Blood Bowl, which Blood Bowl is a 3rd, 4th, 5th game for Steam or for Games Workshop. This is the equivalent of Games Workshop got its start on 40K and Fantasy. This is the equivalent of if Games Workshop all of a sudden just killed off Fantasy and killed off 40K.
Which they should kill off Fantasy, but that's a whole different story.
They didn't. They actually did a smart thing. They didn't kill it off. They did the smart thing, and yes, they pissed me off. They pissed me off by making this new game that wasn't the old. But you want to know what? They brought in a ton of new people by freshening the rules, making it simpler, and it brought in a ton of new people to play this game. Steamforge is saying, you want to know what? Fuck it, we're done.
Because our players are too competitive.
Yeah, right.
Because
that leads me to another point. I think that we squarely can blame John for the end of Guild Ball. Okay. You fucking did this, John.
Yep, it's my fault. Sorry I care too much about your game.
Sorry I bother you with my friendship.
Sorry I'm competitive and I drive 3 hours and buy shit to play your fucking game.
So, I mean, ultimately, in the end, I think that we will see more from Guild Ball. I truly don't believe that it's absolutely the end. I think that what they're doing is saying, hey, this is not where the future of Steamforge is going to be, and we're going to focus on those future things. And at another time, because even more than us being dissatisfied with the fact that we're not getting those minor guilds and all of that, right? Like, that they've got to be... You and I both know Jamie, right? Like, for a fact that he's way more disappointed than us that those minor guilds aren't going to come out. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that it's the end by any means. I think that there's going to be a deep hiatus, right? I think that potentially with enough support over the course of whatever time period to come, they will in the future revisit it, and maybe it'll be a once a year they release, minor guild or something like that. Maybe it's a year from now, right? But in reality, that's kind of been what it's been like anyway. So,
but here's the problem with that, though, Chris, is you look at it now and you look at what they just did, right? I mean, I don't know how much of the reaction you've seen from the community, but there is so much like venom and spite and spewing just negativity for like, there's people talking about, I'm not going to support Steamforged ever again type attitude.
yeah, but I just don't believe that, right? Like I think Steamforge is moving in a direction where they're going to be developing other things. And I think that I honestly believe that Matt loves God tier more than he loves Guild Ball. And that's a big part of this, right?
Well,
like
that's very
But
evident.
it's very evident.
All this shit was part of the reason I was hesitant to get into God tier, though, is because, like, okay, this company, you can see they're not really doing shit. You can't get the fucking minis for Guild Ball. I'm trying to get new players in, like, and they ask me, hey, where do I buy this? I like this team. I'm interested in them. Where do I buy it? And I go, Facebook Marketplace?
Question mark?
Okay, but that's part of the issue, right? So, like, if Facebook Marketplace, you can buy teams like a full 2 boxes for $27, which someone we know just sold a full set of farmers for $27. Why would Steamforge, if it's already an oversaturated market, if people are already trying to sell these off, why would they be producing more models for it?
Because they've been shit in the bed for 2 years.
Yeah, the supply and demand is not there. One, they didn't fulfill the supply when it was hot.
Yeah,
right?
so now there's not demand.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter how much stuff they have.
In the letter, it says every single stocking of minis sold out almost instantly. Well, fucking keep supplying. And then they couldn't keep supplying. That's why the game started to die.
So, I mean, in the end, this is very clear that if you believe, okay, every game that they start, they're just going to quit it, then I understand that mindset of like, go ahead and sell all your models, right? And get into something else. Go get into Malifaux or whatever. Bushido, Pete. Bushido. But if you believe that this is just and this is what I believe, that this is a shift in Steamforged priorities, right? That they're taking all those things about Guild Ball, they're leaving that behind. They've outgrown that first game, and now they're going to put all their effort into God tier and other games.
I don't think people have problems with that, Chris. I think people have problems with the bullshit excuses they gave and the way they announced it and the way that they're kind of just been saying nothing about Guild Ball, and then all of a sudden they just drop this bomb. Because honestly, I have no problem with them saying, we're going to go to another game. We're just not making enough money, but I think the bigger answer here is that they just blame the community and said, you want to know what? We tried new and creative things, but you guys screamed it being overpowered and screamed it was, underpowered. And then I just think they're too scared to change the rules so drastically that they're afraid of the player base then just giving up on them. And it's like, you want to know what? You're going to make people upset with whatever decision you choose. Instead, you copped out and just said, I'm done.
But it's a lose-lose for them, right? Like, because what are they supposed to do? They're like, if they come out with just a very simple statement and say, we hope to revisit Guild Ball in the future, but we will not be moving forward with any more Guild Ball at this time. We have no plans to move forward with Guild Ball. We're just bringing it into Guild Ball. Hopefully, if we receive enough demand, we'll revisit it in the future. If they just say that, people are going to be like, oh, well, that's not a good enough explanation. But then when they try and give some reasons, and I'm not saying that I defend the reasons, right? But when they give reasons, people are going to find a way to bitch about the reasons too, right? Like, so, I mean, honestly, how many fandoms out there, and let's not even talk about ones for miniatures games, right? Like, how many fandoms, Star Wars, do the fucking fans ruin the fandom just because they want to have a bitch fest about everything?
But here's the thing, Chris.
I feel like Guild has done that.
It's not even about that. The fact is that they, instead of just saying the reasons like, hey, we can't bounce, the game has become, it's been this stalemate. It's a competitive game. We don't like, because basically that's what they said. They said they don't like it being a competitive game. They've been trying to make this a game where, they can include everybody, and even the casuals are having a great time, which I think the casuals are having a great time anyways. It's just those things that if you go to a tournament, you can expect some really competitive play with Guild Ball, but you can still go to your shop and get a great game of Guild Ball in. I think the issue that they needed to address is I think they need some kind. Listen, it's been like how many years? Like 6 years of Guild Ball where it's the same bullshit. It's like score 12 points, goals and takeouts. It's like get some other way to win the game in there. Get some other way to get people interested and get the game more interesting.
Please,
Get some alternate, like some bonus something to incentivize people passing the ball around. Like there's so many mechanics they could have introduced to make scoring and passing an incentive, but they're too scared to piss off the old guard. They're too scared to move it forward. So instead, they left it stale. They left it the same, and people just got tired of it. That's why I stopped fucking playing, because it was the same game. It was not interesting, and it was just the same crap. I'm just like, this is not an interesting game anymore.
And you couldn't get new people into it because
okay, they've said that. I agree. I think that the rule sets needed all sorts of new elements. We've had whole podcasts about ways that they could change this game to make it more interesting, right? I'm not disagreeing with any of that, Pete. But the bottom line is it would be a lot of work, and they would be committing a lot of man hours to change and fix Guild Ball. And maybe just a simple, the numbers just reflect, hey, we're not going to devote Jamie to doing this for 3 months when we have these other intellectual properties that we could be expanding on that are going a lot better. Let's just take what we've learned from this experience, not allow those things to creep into our other games.
Think of all the lies spewed with this stupid field test and this stupid, like, oh, we're rebalancing and, oh, give us your ideas. We want your feedback. Think about all that dumb bullshit that they spewed. And now they're just like, we were going to try it, but, fuck off,
Well, yeah, the community definitely didn't.
Let's hear from John. Let's hear from John a little bit.
I just want to cuss. I don't want to cuss. I just want them to sell the game to a company who's going to finish it and do what it should be done. Maybe we should buy it.
The Rage Quit Wire, Guild Ball by the Rage Quit Wire.
I'll give them $100 for the rights to it. And I'm hiring Bryce back. That's what the fuck. That's the other thing I want to talk about. Where's Bryce in this?
Got fired.
Mm-hmm. So all the work he put into it, he don't get a little part of the letter. Everybody got part of the letter. Maybe it's because Bryce was like, no, we aren't fucking ending this. We put too much goddamn work in it, and we got to finish out what we said we're going to finish. And they're like, no, Bryce, we're not doing it. And he's like, fuck you guys.
Maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
It seems like every game is moving toward Kickstarter. So go ahead and start a Kickstarter and make part of that Kickstarter the hiring of Bryce and buying the IP of Guild Ball. And, and for everyone that backs the Kickstarter, they'll get one of those minor guilds that were promised, and it'll be delivered to them.
And here's another thing, right? Because another thing that people can kind of blame is they're like, well, you look at all these podcasts and all these people and how they're kind of like, incentivizing competitive play and all this stuff, right? Longshanks, blah, blah, blah. And I think you can tell the health of a game by how much the community makes stuff for the game, right? All these podcasts, all these blogs, all these vlogs, all these battle reports. That's how you can tell a game is really healthy. And if you look at the last year, right? You look at Strictly the Worst. You look at Anatomical Precision. You look at Dan's Dumbass Iowa podcast. You look at you look at Guild Ball Tonight. Sorry, Dan, I just forgot off the top of my head what it was called, but
it's
run the pitch, whatever. There it is. But anyways, I had to get one last stab at Dan, on our podcast here. But the IO guys love to talk trash with us, even the guys that aren't on the podcast. So I love them. But the fact is, we used to have this really healthy, like tons of information about Guild Ball, people doing, strategy tips, all this. And then a year ago, it just stopped. Like you look at, like, I swear it was right around like September. It just stopped, just cold. And it was just like, where did the excitement go? Where did the releases go? Where did, people talking about strategy and teams and all this stuff go? And it just was because Steamforge hit a rut and they refused to fix stuff. They refused to move forward with their game. They kept it stagnant. That was the problem.
And they kept everything new they put out was either way too powerful or way too weak. And it was like they weren't testing the shit and putting the effort into it that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And then when you wanted to buy stuff, the older stuff, you couldn't get it.
Well, it's also, I mean, so I think that it would be like a nightmare having to introduce new stuff into games, right? Like just in general, right? Because that's what you're going to find. It's either going to be like broken one way or broken the other. And unfortunately, the people that you want to figure out what's broken aren't the people that you're putting necessarily into your playtest community, because Alex Botts is running a podcast. Michael Klein is running a podcast. And so you're not going to be, and maybe this is just a trust thing, right? You don't want them running your playtest groups, and because all of that stuff is going to get leaked out into the community.
You have to sign an NDA or whatever, and you can't run a podcast or any media outlet if you want to be a playtest for any game, really.
Sure.
But there's plenty of games that they do alpha testing, they do beta testing, and then they release stuff. They don't just sit there. Like, you look at so much stuff that gets released by different games, and you can see the different models on, okay, are we trying to balance it? Or are we doing power creep? And honestly, I have no problem with power creep. Release broken stuff, but you want to know how you balance broken stuff if you want it to stay broken? You bring more broken stuff. And then you do the power creep. That's what makes some games balanced, is like, hey, this is broken, but so is this.
But
yeah, see, that's to me, that seems like a nightmare. That sucks.
I mean, that's what Malifaux is. Everything's balanced because everything's powerful.
That's not a great incentive for me to know that it's forever just going to be broken.
Dude, I love it. It's just, and there's so many good like countering and like rock, paper, scissors. It's awesome. And that's fine if you want to go that way. But if you want to go the opposite way and make sure everything's balanced as well, that can be a constant struggle. That's why War Machine has to do that stupid, whatever it is, where they have to update it every month. Yeah, they have to do that to keep everything updated, and that's fine if that's the way you want to go.
But that's not. Like, I think they're trying to get a balanced game, and I think that they're probably disappointed that when they release stuff, it's like, okay, here's the complaint: it's too powerful, it's too weak. I mean, and I'm not saying that isn't their own fault for not, creating the right playtest, but it's frustrating, right? Like, obviously they care about balance. Like, Steamforge has never released a game that was all fucked up as far as balance goes. Like, they've always wanted something that was a balanced game.
Right, but I mean, even when there was broken ass shit, I mean, whatever the most broken time of Guild Ball was, people were still playing everything. You still went to a tournament and saw every fucking guild, because it wasn't just about competitive like they say. It was about people who were like, oh, I'm bringing my fucking navigators no matter what because they're my team.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, Guild Ball is one of those things where, yes, when you got to the top 10% of gameplay, right, when you got to the top 10% of this is the most competitive you can get with Guild Ball, it was super cagey. It was super, I'm going to deny the ball and I'm just going to kill you one by one. That's the way the game was at the competitive play, because that was the consistent way to win. But when you got to the mid and low tables, it was just a blast, just killing stuff, scoring goals, slamming it in there. That's why I think that whole you guys didn't allow us to because you were too competitive. It's like, that's bullshit, I think
the one thing that in the little letter that pissed me off the most when I copied and pasted right, when matched against lesser skilled opponents or inexperienced opponents, a better player would simply win the vast majority of games.
That's a good game.
What games do you play that aren't like that?
Yeah, every game's going to be like that. So I agree with you that I take issue with some of the reasoning and some of the logic of their decision as well. Like, I don't want someone to take away that, like, I think that everything Steamforge done here has been rosy. Like, it isn't. But I knew this game would come to an end at some point. I could see the writing on the wall that, like, this wasn't a fun thing for them to maintain. And I'm just not. I guess I'm not super upset because my expectations weren't far off from what's happening, right? Like, I'm happy to know that within the next week or two, the rest of the lore is going to be released. I think
a week or two. I don't think it's going to be that early.
You want to bet?
Yeah, I mean, I have no confidence that will be released at all.
Okay, well, sources close to Steamforge have told me that it'll be a week or two.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then
Their,
we'll get the
their word's
season
about
5
as good
stuff.
as mud to me.
Okay, so we'll see what the end of the season 5 stuff would have looked like as far as lore goes. I would still get a lore book if it gets released. I love that story, and I think that one day we could see the release of some minor guilds and those types of things. I just don't see it as the ultimate end. And it's something that if they're going to take a break from it, well, guess what? Now's the time, because there hasn't been a strong pull for Guild Ball lately, and they're able to build up these other games. And I think that they're just trying to circle the wagons because they recognize that Atomic Mass is out there. And
I don't think this is the time. Like, I realize what you're saying. I actually think this is the time, since you're not seeing tournament play and you're not seeing, people playing the game as much. I think this is the perfect time they could have been designing season 5. I think this is the perfect time where they could have pooled what resources they have. They're gaining money from these other games and said, you want to know what? And I would be fine with this. I would be fine with them saying, you want to know what? We're going to put Guild Ball on hold for a year. We're working on season 5 balancing. We will release, a beta during this time next summer, where you can play test the rules, and we'll tweak the guilds from there. And then we will release season 5, and that's going to be the last season, and that's going to be what you get. I would have been perfectly fine with that. This is just bullshit.
I agree that would be better. Like, I don't want anyone to take away that I don't have disappointments, or that I don't think that would be a better plan. Like, that's obviously what I hoped for.
Either finish it like you said you were going to finish it, or just fucking grow a pair and put the field test shit out. Like, whatever the field test results were, put it out, and this is the time to go for it, where you think that's how you get new players. You change the game to get new players, and do it.
Yeah, test your own thoughts. Like, that's the thing that kind of pisses me off. It's almost like that locks them in the group. The founders of the company don't have the stones to make their game. Like they said, we want it to be new player friendly and to be less competitive. Well, then make your game to be that way. Test it out, and if you're right, you're going to make your money back. And if you're wrong, then you want to know what?
You're going to lose your company,
and you lose the whole company, I guess.
See, but I can understand somebody not wanting to make that bet, right? Where they're like, okay, the bet is make my money back or lose my company. I can totally understand any company saying, let's move forward with these other games that are showing a lot of promise and that we're really excited to go after. I'm sure they're making great money with the IPs from all the video game stuff. And, this is where we're going to focus, right? Like, I can't expect them to say, hey, let's bet the farm like we're in year 1, in year 6. I think that it's more than the community can expect from anybody. If somebody else believes that, right, let them go. Like, I'm only partially joking when I say, hey, run a Kickstarter, go hire Bryce and see if you can make it happen, right? Like if you really believe that, if Guild Ball you think has so much opportunity to like be this monster again, then somebody will back it with those dollars. But in the end, I can't expect Rich and Matt to like bet the farm on a game that like is struggling, and it clearly is struggling.
Here's the thing, right? You can say whatever you want about Guild Ball. You can say whatever you want. But I know for a fact that there are a bunch of, Pete Canes out there that are going to look at this and be like, you want to know what? Steamforged, you want to do it that way? That's fine. But don't expect any support moving forward from me. Like, honestly, I'm looking at this now and I'm like, you know what? Maybe fuck these God tier models.
But you have a level of like resentment and grudge holding that is like beyond the pale of reason.
I don't think that's unique. No, I don't think that's unique.
No, it's just expectations from Steamforged because they fucked over the community and it's been shitty for a while, and now we feel like we're owed something. Like, because we've stuck with them and we played Guild Ball for a long time, even after it went downhill, and we expect like, okay, they're going to get their shit together. We believe they're going to get their shit together, and it's going to get better. No, instead, here it is. They give up.
Well, I just don't know what I don't know what the answer is, because like I'm really looking at like this from the standpoint of trying to balance out both sides, right? Like, I would love to see all of that stuff as a fan of Guild Ball, and as somebody that's like put a lot of effort into this podcast and to building up Guild Ball. I mean, like I'm always going to have fond memories of Guild Ball. I'm always going to keep my butchers and cooks models no matter what. I just recognize that, like, from their standpoint, like, it's really easy for the community to like say what they think should have been done when they've got like no skin in it.
All right. Well, let me ask you this, Chris. And I'm going to have John respond to it first, then you can think of your response. So, Jamie Perkins has been doing pretty awesome tweet of the day every day. He's been like tabletop gamer thought of the day, right? Type thing, or developer thought of the day. It's one of those things. But, anyways, one of the thoughts that he had, I think it was either yesterday or today, he was like, thought of the day, developers should play their own game in a competitive, sense, or they should play with their community the game they develop. They think they should get out. Jamie's like, you should get out there and play. Thoughts? And I think that's part of the problem with the original owners of the company. I think Rich has not played the game in a long time as far as with the community. And when he has gotten smoked so bad because he wants to play this fluffy little game of Guild Ball. And when he goes to a tournament and gets stomped by these competitive players, he got feel bads. And you know what? It's like you should be more in touch with the game and how your game is being played. And if you realize that, oh, that is more competitive than I wanted to, make it where it's not as certain, because there are people that play Guild Ball because they can do the math to a very tight percentage to know this is the likelihood. And if you don't want your game to do that, do something like you did with God Tier, where it's like, you want to know what? Let's use these dice. They're a little more swingy, so you can still be competitive with it. But you know what? Sometimes bad rolls happen. So I don't know what you think about that, John. If that maybe the owners are out of touch with the community, and their expectations don't meet what the community's expectations have been.
I mean, I don't know about Rich and all of them playing. I know I've been to a tournament with Bryce. I know how Bryce plays, so I think Bryce heading up Guild Ball was great because Bryce was always at tournaments and he was winning. He was a very good competitive player. Yeah, I mean, so he was in touch with the community, but I don't feel like he was just hardcore only competitive. That's how the game is being played. So I thought he'd be great for the game. I mean, I agree. If you don't love the game enough to play it, then yeah, you shouldn't be developing it.
Yeah, I feel like the love has not been there with Loxham and the other owners for a while. So I don't know, Chris. I think they're
Matt Hart's been. I mean, this is kind of the nature of. You think owning a game company is just going to be fun and playing games all the times, and then
it's not.
And then in the end, it becomes like work, and you're an owner, right? And
it's almost like, dude, that was hold on. So I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. That was the funniest tweet. There was a tweet from Matt Hart, and somebody was asking him like, oh, have you been, doing this and this for, Guild Ball? And he was like, I know it. Actually, I haven't had the time. I've been busy. And somebody was like, I know it. It's almost like your job is to develop, your game or something. It's like, this should be something you're working on. But anyways, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, I mean, I in some ways, I feel bad for them, right? Like, because obviously when they started, they just wanted to be like, hey, what would be fun as far as gaming that we like as gamers? And I guarantee that Rich wasn't signing up for, let me navigate the pain in the ass of shipping from China.
Yeah, right.
Like you and I wouldn't want to do that.
Nope.
That would fucking suck. But I mean, it's the nature of running a company, right? And I'm sure that those guys ask themselves all the time, just like any entrepreneur would, what did I get myself into? And man, I really wish that I was able to make more time for games. It's sort of like how bakers never have fresh bread in their houses, right? Because they're so busy making bread all day that they don't want to have to make another loaf when they get home. And I'm sure that's how Rich and Matt feel, right? And I think Matt has probably made a little bit more time to play, right? He's obviously made more time with God Tier, and I just kind of see this as like, in many ways, a natural evolution in the sense that like they're a snake that's outgrowing its skin or a crab that's outgrowing its shell, right? Like they're saying, listen, instead of trying to rework all of this, let's take the lessons we've learned. It was a good run. We don't want to bet the farm on like keeping this going. let's just move forward. And I don't see that that's like a horrific way to go. I'm sure that there's lots of restaurants that have moved on with their menus and taken things off that people always loved that they thought were staples. And, shoe companies that have ended certain shoe lines and, all of that kind of stuff. I just don't,
you
I just don't have this vitriol about it.
You don't see McDonald's taking off the Big Mac.
Especially not while people are in line waiting for their Big Mac still.
Yeah.
People are fucking in this restaurant waiting for their food. Like, okay, yeah, we're going to get our food one day. It's going to be good when it gets here.
Yeah, but they have ended the McRib.
Get the fuck out.
The McRib isn't on the menu right now, so there.
There's not people sitting in the restaurant waiting for it, but it takes longer to get Guild Ball middle models than it does to get a McRib.
Again, right? Like, I'm not saying that the things that you're saying aren't valid. I just like,
Man,
I'm just not ragey about this because, like,
I'm just surprised
it's
you're
not out of the norm.
I'm just surprised. Well, yeah, you want to know why? Maybe because this has happened too much from this fucking company.
It's happened. It's happened slowly but surely. But I mean, like, there are lots of people out there, right? We've seen it in tournaments. There are lots of people that are competitive players that are like, fuck the community. I want to stomp your ass. So how many times have we on this podcast talked about what it takes to build a healthy community, right? And how many people out there refuse to listen to that because they just care about stomping people the fuck out?
I think that's any game, though. I don't think
what game doesn't have those people.
Yeah, I know, and those people are negatives in the community.
Okay, that doesn't stop a company from doing what they want to do.
Sorry, there's people who are super passionate about the game and like to win. I mean, the objective of the game is to win, right?
Sure, and there are always those people those people can always make it to those final tables and they can always win, right? But like, I have no problem believing that Rich probably sat at tournaments and probably got stomped out by other people and thought, man, this isn't what I wanted to make. I didn't want to create this experience.
Well, plus, here's my other problem with kind of what's going on, right? So you have your designers and you have people like Sherwin who run events like the Free Cities Draft, and they're like, this was one of the most successful community events we have ever done, ever, right? I don't understand how you see that excitement and the amount of passion behind a game, and you just can't say, like, we can't fix that. Like, there are so many people who look at people, they designed apps for free, people that, Steamforge has not given any money, really. They just make it because they're so passionate about the game, which other companies pay people, by the way, to do that. You see people make a site dedicated to statistics. You have podcasts made where people are promoting your game. And I can tell you, just people looking behind the curtain, Steamforge has a media program that has been laughable and just a fucking embarrassment the past year. Mm-hmm. I literally have posted on there. I have tried contacting the contacts for the media page, the people that are now running this. And I'm going to tell you, it's an embarrassment how they handle it. You do not get that much. It's not even close to what it used to be.
Don't forget all the thing all those amazing pundits did. I mean, so there were some fucking amazing pundits. I was a pundit, but I wasn't half a fucking pundit that some of these people were.
Like Lon
and spending their own fucking money to grow the game for them.
Jake Smith out of Greenville, lots of just
Lon, yeah.
I said Lon, yeah. It just people that did this stuff for free, spending their own money to promote your product that they love so much, and you're going to look at them and you'll be like, this is not savable. We can't save this game. It's like, no, there are tons of people that would rally around this game and say, yes, we will help you develop an awesome season 5. We want to bring in, there's been people trying to bring in new blood to Guild Ball for years now. So I think it's bullshit that they're going to be like, we can't save this game. And I think, Chris, you letting them off the hook is kind of a shame. I feel like I can't believe you're letting him off the hook this much.
Well, no, because I mean, like, honestly, there's a balance here, because while I understand that I would want to see something different from Steamforge, and I'm not saying that I'm not, I also am not letting off the hook the other members of the community, right? Like, I'm also not letting off the hook the people that, like, every time they said, hey, what sort of things can we incorporate? It was a bitch fest about what they already knew about
That's
shipping.
fair.
Right?
That is fair.
Like, so how many people jump ship when there were small growing pains? Right? Where like, okay, yeah, there were some delays and they announced that things would be out and then it was months later or whatever. Those are relatively small growing pains. They're inconvenient. They're a pain in the ass. But people like made a huge fucking thing about it and jumped off of the game. People that I loved having as part of that community. Right? And so they're over there thinking like, okay, well, these people are going to hold a grudge forever. And like, I'll take a guy that I think is the man. I love Lon. That guy is awesome, right? Losing him is a big loss. But when they lost Lon, right, like part of it was, I'm sure Lon just has a life and had other things to worry about and didn't want to focus on Guild Ball. But the other part was like leaving over a delay in the Navigators Guild isn't like something that, and I'm not saying that's why Lon left, but leaving over these small delays and losing people like that over these small things, like to them, they're reading it like it's an indicator that like, okay, clearly the fan base, clearly the fandom isn't as loyal as we thought. And I personally, like, I look at myself, right? Like, I'm like, how many times did I have a bitch fest about one of these games? And obviously I'm like just having a fun time on a podcast, but I could imagine that they probably listened to some of those things and thought, well, man, no matter what we do, people are going to be fucking complaining. Why do we want to keep doing
that's the world?
I think we've been pretty fair.
I agree. Like, and to be honest, maybe I'm being more fair to them or more gentle on this issue because there have been so many times where I've been like, this is a fucking disaster, right?
Yeah.
But and John, you're right. This is the world. But that doesn't mean it's a positive aspect of the world.
No,
right?
but it's
Customer
also
loyalty goes both ways.
It's also, you're not going to, if you don't make a good product and if people aren't passionate about your product, then nobody's going to bitch because nobody gives a shit. Because so many people were passionate and cared about it. Yeah, they bitch because they were just passionate about it and they cared and they were upset. Like, oh, I mean, when the hunters got nerfed, I was upset and I bitched about it, but I still had fun playing the game. I was just passionate about the game.
Yeah, and to that mindset, like I think that you were fair about that, right? Like, it's not like hunters got a nerf or something like that, and you were like, "Well, I'm selling all my fucking models," right? But there are so many people that do that shit.
I wouldn't say there's so many. It's the squeaky wheel.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Some wheels need to shut the fuck up and be less squeaky.
Well, they need to. If they can't deal with that, then they need to get out of business.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're always going to have,
and they did. Negativity. They got out of the Guild Ball business.
Yes, they did.
Well, then I'm telling you, how much money is this going to cost them as a company?
Because I'm telling you, Chris, you think that I'm the extreme. Like, there's going to be not that many people that are just irate about this, but I'm telling you, just from looking around, like, and I'm talking about top tier players. I'm talking about people that run podcasts. I'm talking about people that just casually play the game. There's people that are irate about this and are straight up telling me, like, I am never touching another Steamforged game product.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to look at the prisoner of the moment posts either. Like, I mean, sure, if you're that passionate about the game, fine, run a Kickstarter and go buy the IP. I'm sure if they're really not going to do anything else with it, I'm sure they're willing to sell the IP, right? Go put together whatever I have no idea how to determine the value of that IP at this point. I don't know if it's worth $1 million or it's worth, $500,000, whatever it is. Go put together a Kickstarter, go find some people that have some money and, go buy it and then create the game. And if somebody isn't willing to make that bet, if somebody doesn't think Guild Ball is strong enough to where somebody else should do that, then I don't think that it's that unreasonable what they decided to do.
So let's flip the script a little bit here, all right? Because I feel like we've talked enough about kind of what the problems have been and what the things that really kind of grinded our gears. But I want to switch it for this last part of the podcast, and I just want to talk to you guys about kind of what are the good things you remember about Guild Ball? What are some of the good things that make kind of like fuels your anger, the things that you loved so much about the game and the things you loved about the community and the company. What were some of those things that really kind of, got you behind this game? And obviously it's going to be different for each one of us.
I mean, I loved how it was. It was a competitive game, but it was still a fun community. I mean, yeah, I went to every tournament with the intention to win it because I'm competitive as hell. But even when I wasn't winning it, or I was on the bottom tables or an opening game versus a new player, I was still I still had a ton of fun with it. And beer helped, but it was a fun game. I mean, it was a game you could shoot the shit. It was sports. It was killing. Random shit happened. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to roll this one die. I need a 6 to score a goal, and something doesn't fucking happen, and everybody laughed, and crazy shit happened. And it was a fun game that still had its competitive edge to it. So I thought it was a good mix for everybody, and competition did not kill it.
Okay, what about you, Chris?
Yeah, so the thing that I loved about it is I felt like it was a very relatable game, right? I felt like you could demo this for somebody, and as you demoed it, they were thinking, you know what? I worked in this job. My dad was a stonemason, so I'm going to play the Masons, right? Like, I thought that was pretty cool, and definitely like more relatable as far as like the culture of the game than a lot of other miniatures games that are out there. People can't necessarily relate to some of the other entities that are out there in the world of tabletop gaming, and so I always like the experience of getting somebody into Guild Ball. I'll always remember, I feel like, with a couple years ago where our community out here was really strong and we had like a lot of people that would show up and play. I'll always view that fondly. And I'm always going to keep my models. I always felt like, from the mindset of the theme, but also the play style of those butchers and cooks, that was just right up my alley. I have rarely found a pairing like that when I have played a miniatures game. So I'll always view Guild Ball fondly, and maybe it's that nostalgia that's why I'm giving a more generous view of Steamforge's decision.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that I loved most about the game of Guild Ball and Steamforged games up to a point is that this is a game that it was the most engaging community game I have ever seen up to that point. I thought the rules were super easy to learn. They were clean. There was no debate. I didn't have to read a rule book for an hour while I was playing the game. It was all just there. And then the first community event that I played, the Union and Chains one, it was just amazing. Just the fact that there was so much community involvement. The community had so much say in how the story was going to develop. And then on top of that, you had the free cities draft. Plus you had your developers and your writers who were so accessible to the community. You actually had people like Bryce and people like Jamie and people like Sherwin and every other developer and person that they had working for them, that you could literally sit there and talk with them, and you didn't even have to be anybody. Like, you didn't even have to be, on a podcast. You didn't even have to be, somebody that was a game designer. You could go to a tournament, walk up to them, and just share what you love about the game. I remember when we went to SteamCon, which was a beautiful event, which was an event that I think is very unique to what companies do today, right? And I just loved the fact that we had our boys Russ and we had Rick and probably somebody else who basically fanboyed Sherwin and talked his ear off for hours trying to get, Rick's trying to get a model named after him and after his likeness. And, they're just eating up everything Sherwin's saying, like, getting the vapors as Sherwin's talking to him. And it's just, that's the stuff that Steamforge was just awesome about and why I loved him so much.
Yeah, I'm definitely sad to see Guild Ball go. I guess if people really want Guild Ball back in the future, then keep doing things that you can with what's available, right? Don't be of the mindset that I'm going to run out and sell all my shit and I'm going to hate Steamforge forever, right? Like, okay, take the positives that you experienced, right? Like, it would still be fun to have a farewell Guild Ball event, right? It
Or
doesn't have to be a huge one.
you can take this can go another way too, Chris. This could go the events and a lot of the other stuff in the past years have been fan driven. So this could go the way of Warhammer 8th edition, right? There was a great community that basically took the 8th edition rule sets for Warhammer Fantasy and they made their own rule set, tweaking some of the stuff. And there's still some people that actually play that edition because they like it so much and it's a fan driven community. So that's kind of the way Guild Ball could go. If people still are very passionate about the game, I would encourage them to, you want to know what? Fuck Steamforged. We're going to keep this game going. We got all our models. We have a good solid. You can even go back to like third season if you wanted to do, season 3 stuff, which I hear a lot of people like, 3.2 or 3.5 was the best, version of Guild Ball. Fine, man. You want to make a rule set with all those old third edition rules and go ahead and keep playing the game that you love. That's definitely, to me, there's 2 ways you can basically tell a company to fuck off. And that's one, you can do what I do and just say, fuck it, you're dead to me. Or you could do what I've seen other people do and just, you want to know what? Let's keep playing the game. We love it in spite of this shitty company and what they've done to us.
I'll choose option 2.
I don't know, John. What option are you taking? You taking play?
I'm waiting for the Kickstarter and somebody else to resurrect this game.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
I mean, I still have all my shit. I'm not getting rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, at this point, they're like whole teams are selling for like $25. So there's no reason to sell your teams right now.
No.
Plus, they're good D&D models. You got a good set of D&D models, folks.
Yeah. What I want to talk to Bryce. I want Bryce to come on and talk to us.
So there's some awesome things for people that they should be on the lookout for. I believe it's today. I'm going to release this. I'm going to edit through the night. I'm going to release this Tuesday morning. And I believe Craig from Third Floor Wars actually interviewed Jamie Perkins for this week's episode. So I'm very curious to see what Jamie says before the release of this notice.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But yeah.
And Bryce started his own podcast.
Did he?
No, I just like that today. I'm gonna listen to the episode tomorrow, I think.
Yep. Curious to see how Bryce kind of goes from here.
Podcast?
It has
I for Wargaming, I think.
Yeah, it has I in there because he's Scottish.
Like AYE, yeah. An I for games, that's what it is.
So check that one out. Put that on your old podcast listening devices.
I for games, you said?
Yeah.
An I for games, yeah. AYE, I.
AYE. Yeah, he just did it. I don't know if his RSS feed is fully where it's supposed to be, but I mean, you can look it up and it should at least bring you to the page where he has it coming off of. Let's go ahead and talk about this real quick, guys. We started off as a Guild Ball podcast. Are we done with Guild Ball for the foreseen future?
What the fuck do you want to talk about?
We didn't start as a Guild Ball podcast. We said from the very beginning that we were just going to talk about whatever games we're playing. So
boom.
And this is part of the reason why we chose a name like Rage Quit Wire instead of one that was very specific to Guild Ball, which some others have done. We chose to be the Rage Quit Wire for a reason, so that we could adapt to whatever happens. And
yeah, because we like being pissed off. We like being pissed off over all sorts of games.
Yeah, amen, amen.
Oh man, Chris, you were not salty about this at all.
Well, I mean, I think it was when
your fans are disappointed.
I think it was in one of the no, they're not, because people listen in all the time to be pissed at me and the opinions I have, and
that's
I'm
fair.
Pissed off a bunch of fucking people.
Chris went heel the other way.
Yeah, that's right. I can always turn heel, no matter how they expect it to go.
They're like, man, I can't wait for Chris to bitch up a storm, and then they get this, and they're like, what the fuck is this?
They're like, fucking Chris.
Well, I'm fucking angry enough for all the angry people. So
that's fair. That's fair.
There's enough. I think there's enough f-bombs in here. Maybe we offended one person.
It's weird because usually Don and I are the casual ones.
Yeah, well, I mean, I pointed it out. I mean, basically, you guys are the ones that ruined Guild Ball. So, I mean, thanks a lot.
Chris is just one of those guys that couldn't win in a tournament and had bad feels after a tournament.
There it is.
And that's why I want a Guild Ball to end.
Yep. It wasn't the losing; it was the fucking kidney stone, Chris.
Good God, man!
That was a life of hell that day. So, and then I had to play those fucking navigators.
Oh god,
So
that was so good.
that was funny. So to the listeners, though, right? So listen, we're still putting out content. We've been doing it even though Guild Ball's been, dead. When there's been Guild Ball content, we put it out. So if for some reason things pick up, if there's an interest, if, a Steamforged or another company starts releasing events and it kind of spins back up, we'll talk Guild Ball. I have no problem talking Guild Ball. Because one thing we didn't talk about that I would like to visit, and we touched on it briefly, is that they do plan, at least that's what they say. Now take that for what it's worth. They do say they're going to finish the fluff out. So they did say season 5 fluff will still come out.
Expect it in a week or two.
And Sherwin's working on it. Apparently Chris has his sources, and it's a week or two, which would be great. That might, calm some people down.
Oh, by the way, that might actually throw me into a fucking rage, depending on how that fluff ends.
Good. Hopefully they kill Ox.
Fuck you, man. How dare you?
I hope they all die.
Yeah, the whole Butchers Guild just dies.
Oh, you better not. Sherwin, if you're listening to this, you better fucking not.
And that's the thing. So I'm really happy that at least they're letting Sherwin, they're not leaving it open. They're not just saying, Sherwin, just kill it, you're done. They did give him the opportunity to release that stuff, which I don't think is a big cost to them anyway, so I wouldn't have understood it if they didn't let him finish it.
It's probably been done for years, right? Like, it's probably been holding back as there's been delays in release dates repeatedly.
It's been sitting on a boat on the way from China for 2 years now.
Yeah, right. I have no doubt.
Oh, man. So, John, last thoughts, just summing up thoughts of this whole shitty experience. No?
Right, come on the podcast. That's all I want.
All right. Well, maybe you can, PM him and, ask him if he wants to come on. Well, you want to know what? Maybe you can go on to his podcast and bitch for a little bit for him.
We could just talk.
That could be good. I wonder if all bets are off now that he's not working with Steamforged. Like, he'll just give us all the nitty gritty.
I'm sure there's still an NDA or something.
Yeah, but I mean, what are they going to do? Take all the money from his brand new podcast? we're gonna sue you for money you're spending instead of making. Like,
I don't know. I don't know how that shit works.
All right, Chris. What about you?
Welcome to the world of Bushido, Pete. I'm really excited that you're going to get into it to now scratch your itch for Guild Ball.
Is that a sex thing?
Fucks. Yeah, right. And Chris, fucks that because I am knee deep in loving some Malifaux.
That is a growing community. I'm just saying, like, you can get in and...
I don't know if you missed it, Chris. We're a Middle Earth podcast now.
Yeah, right.
You're fucking right. Yeah, talk about a game that like is limited as far as like where you can go with it. Like, there's only so many characters in Lord of the Rings. There's a great many, but Lord of the Rings is finished.
So I will say
not. There's a new Amazon series coming out. Pay attention.
That's not the same, and you know it.
I don't care. You think Games Workshop ain't gonna make some money off of that? Fuck.
I don't know, man. But I will say though, because a lot of people have expressed like, oh well, I'm not supporting God Tier and I'm not supporting their other games. I am spiteful. Like Guild Ball is going to have to do something in the future to have me ever play a game again. Just because I'm kind of like, well, there's not really a point for me to play this game anymore. And
are you going to show up for Nick's God Tier charity event?
I was going to say I am still going to play God Tier. I still like God Tier, right? They haven't.
I don't know if I want to buy more of it.
That's the thing where I'm kind of like, I think I will. I don't think I'm that pissed about Guild Ball where I'm not going to support that game because I do like the game and I do see them putting efforts and money into it and it's developing and it's a good game. So I don't think I'm going to just abandon ship on Steamforged like some people have said. And
it's not the right decision if you liked God Tier, right? Like it just matter of factly, it isn't. Like if you say fuck Steamforged and fuck God Tier and all of this kind of stuff, it's the wrong decision if you actually hope one day to get the rest of that stuff, right? Just swallow your pride on it. Don't run your mouth. Talk about the great experiences and create a post on Gubs about great times that you had with Guild Ball and how much you're going to miss it. And then hopefully in times to come, because you know that they've got fucking rules for those models. Like even if it's not all tested out, you know
Yeah, they said
that
clearly on
they've
fuck
prepped
on.
for that Entertainers Guild.
Can we rewind that and play the part again where Chris said, "Swallow your pride and don't run your mouth"? Fuck you.
does all the time.
John, this is advice for other people, not for me.
Do as I say, not as I did.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. I mean, Trump's our president. You don't think that that's a reasonable standard?
We do not talk politics on this podcast.
and I just got a bunch more God tier models. Like, so I got that whole like chosen pledge or whatever, the smaller pledge.
Yeah.
And by the way, shout out to Danny Dean from Texas, who you guys have met.
Yeah, I played Danny up in DC.
Yeah, so he gave me a deal on that. Packed it great, so the stuff didn't come all fucked up, and I shot him over the payment and paid him friends and family, and there were no problems with him shipping it out immediately to me. Like, so it's always good having like a great interaction when you're making a trade and you're trusting somebody enough to send them the money, friends and family, so that they don't have to pay any fees.
Yeah, I think that's another thing I was going to say about that's been great about playing Guild Ball is the people that we have met, not just on the podcast. I think if you've played Guild Ball, there's been people all around the country and in some cases all around the world where you've met people that were passionate about the game. You met people that were just a ball to hang out with. Even the super competitive end, like I got my teeth kicked in multiple times by Mike Klein, and still fun as hell every time, BSing with him. And it's just one of those things where I think that's why people are angry, because they just remember all these awesome times and just now it's just dead. And I've told multiple people interacting with them today that, you want to know what? I still play tabletop games. I still play, lots of different games. And, one of these times, hopefully we have a game in common again, right? So I told people like, hey, I still play these games, Malifaux, God Tier, whatever else game Bushido. I'm in. Not Bushido. And if it is, I think it is. Chris is lonely. So remember those times and just lean on those and talk with those friends. Try to get in another game with them with some kind of other system. Like Dixon's a great example. Dixon's been hounding me for a game of Malifaux, and I played God Tier with him the other day. So yeah, just keep in touch with those friends you've made in Guild Ball and just play other games with them. Like be like, hey, what are you playing now? Cool. Well, why don't we meet up sometime? We'll play it online, or let's play it at the shop. Let's meet at a big con when they open back up and just play games.
Yeah, I agree with that, and yeah, I hope that I recognize people are upset, but I really do hope that people take the advice and get on Gubs and share your positive. Like I forget who it was, but somebody shared all of his like painting that he did over the course of Guild Ball, and it was just awesome to see. He's and I wish I remember the guy's name, but he's the guy that did that full team of like Fangtooth.
Was it?
Like he did every Union model, but with a Fangtooth variation.
Yeah, I think it was. Is that Inspiring Hat? Is that no?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I've seen a couple of those. Like I remember Jared Turner posted his. I saw his pictures. He had some good looking models. I don't remember who that one was.
But yeah, I mean, I wish Gubs would be flooded with. These were the positive experiences. Hey, I want to at least, say goodbye by shooting out all my awesome painting, or maybe people have a farewell event, with whatever handful of people are still playing in their area. And, hopefully it turns it around and Steamforge says, okay, all right, we'll release this other guild, or we'll do this little thing to help do some rebalancing or something. Like I would love to see that, because I want to convince them that it's worth their time, not convince them that they made the right choice by being a bitch fest.
I'm getting kind of tired of this nostalgic, like sentimental Chris. I'm not liking it.
Hey, yeah, what can I say? I give the people what they don't want. Turning heel by being nice. Fuck y'all.
Touche.
So yeah. Anyway, and yeah, that's That's my opinion on this whole thing. And Sherwin better not fucking kill Ox. They'll really piss me off. So if you want to hear some bitching the other way, wait till we get that season 5 fluff.
Good. I still won't read it because I'm the competitive player that killed the game.
That's right. Well, you want to know what, guys? I think we've got a lot out there. We got some bitching out and remembered some of the good times. And like I said, I'm not going to be playing. I haven't played any Guild Ball. It's one of those things where there's been no incentive and no development. So it's just one of those things. So those of you that are still playing, definitely, hey, keep fighting the good fight. That's all I can say is just keep playing your games. This can be easily a fan-made thing, and it probably will be, because if a game like Blood Bowl, which I don't like Blood Bowl, can have a community-driven fan base that keeps it alive, I have no doubt Guild Ball is going to do the same thing. It's going to stay alive to spite Steam Forged games. I'm going to say that. Any last thoughts, guys? Anything else you want to get off your chest before we roll out of here?
Nah.
All right. Well, I'm not even going to bother with all the promotional crap. If you support us, you know how to do it, or you know how you're doing it. Thanks for our patrons who do. And you want to know what?
Should we invite people out to that charity event?
I mean, we can.
So if anyone can make it down to Charleston from, maybe the surrounding
Carolinas
areas
and Georgia and stuff
on Sunday the 23rd, I believe it is.
Yep.
Our buddy Nick, he always does a charity event that's related to some sort of fandom. So he's done charity events that are related to 24 hours of playing video games, that kind of stuff. He's running a God tier tournament on Sunday. I think it's the 23rd of August.
It is the 23rd.
Okay. So yeah, if anyone wants to make it down here and wants to play some God tier, I know that there are people that have God tier models and maybe you don't have a big community, but you want to make it down here for a God tier event, head down to Charleston, get in contact with Pete or I, and we can give you the details, and we'll be supporting a good cause of, medical care for kids.
Hell yeah. I'm going to plan on making that happen.
Yep. So come on down for that. Like I said, we'll post up the information for that event. But until that time when we record again, folks, make sure that you roll dice, throw lots of salt Steam Forged way, because we love pissing them guys off. And we'll see y'all next time.
Peace.